fun. It's enjoying, have the fans come out to support us. We know it's going to be a tough game, and we knew it was going to be fought to the end. And I'm happy to be with my boys to fight to the end.
I feel like this game we played down to the level we could have played way better. But we still came out with a dub, 6-0. I feel great.
This game proves something about you guys this year?
Yeah, it proves that we're coming for it all and we're not stopping until we get it.
We gotta keep pushing. This game's over with. We got Simsbury next, so we gotta worry about that one now.
GameTimeCT, what happened?
Hello, everybody, and welcome once again to the Meat Grinder, your weekly dose of high school football in Connecticut. And I'm your host, Sean Patrick Bowley. With me, as always, is Pete Paguaga. Pete, we are on to November. Welcome back. What's up?
So I have a new nickname. I don't know if you heard. There were some rumblings going around this past week, but I got to Woodland and I ran into our guy, Kyle Brennan, and he's like, Pete, there's rumblings. And I was like, what are you talking about? And he's like, my new nickname, they're like, NVL Pete's here. So, I go to 4 NVL games, and they're calling me NVL Pete, apparently. That FCX bias is gone.
Really?
No, the entire story is fabricated, but I was at 4 NVL games this week, and so I feel like NVL Pete, maybe we should change my name down at the bottom, NVL Pete. I think it rings true.
Oh, well, how is our good friend Kyle? We miss Kyle.
He's good. As a Woodland alum, he was very excited. I know we'll get to that game, so I don't want to drop too ahead, but he was very happy at the new field. He's very proud of where he grew up, so he was very happy to see their win over Naugatuck. But NVL Pete, baby.
Before we begin, don't forget to like and subscribe if you're following us on YouTube, or like and leave us a comment on any of your Apple podcasts or your Spotify podcasts or wherever you get your podcasts. Really, please let us know how we're doing. And if you support the show, you want to see the show, you want us to continue to do all this great work, just make sure you like and subscribe. It really helps. Thanks a lot. Hey, listen, we don't get it to as many games as we'd like to in the NVL because usually it's basically what they call the non-violent league, and Ansonia just kind of rips through everybody. Though in recent years, Naugatuck has been, making lots of moves and waves in there, beating Ansonia a couple times. So that was great. You were there. We'll get all into that in a second. But at the top of the show, you heard a lot from the how else can I describe it? As acrimonious game between Maloney, your darling teams, Pete. We were both thought they were going to be right in the thick of things, tough alliance schedule, sure, but they had Jesus Martell. They had to get Nadinsky and facing an upstart New Britain team, which every week, every victory they pile up, they want to let GameTimeCT know they are coming, and they are coming fast, and they're not going to stop. And we hear that from them constantly. Lots of big wins. They beat Southern for the first time in 16 years. We had Isaiah Bodie on last week to talk about their big game against Maloney. And listen, this was a big moment for both teams. We circled at the top of the show, top of the season, I should say. And Maloney in kind of not quite desperate here, but really needing to win after getting blown out by New Canaan to start the year. They got beat up by Windsor the week before, and then they lost a close one to Staples late. So already 3 losses in the books, a couple wins, including one over Glastonbury. Nice start. But this was a big one for Kevin Frederick and the gang. And let's go straight over to Veterans Memorial Field, where plenty of shenanigans to start this game. Maloney runs out with its flags and immediately gets intercepted by New Britain running out to its field, which led to a kind of a scrum at midfield as the two teams intersected. Lots of jawing back and forth, getting a little too close for comfort. Finally, the head referee saying no nonsense to start this game. 0 tolerance, as he said in the coin toss huddle. Maloney needing this one, and right out of the gate, going up 14-0 with one of the state's best players, Jesus Martell. On 4th down on Maloney's first drive, calls in a 45-yard touchdown pass from Ethan Nadinsky, and later on a nice reverse pass, taking it 32 yards to the house to put the Spartans up 14-0, and it's looking like blowout city in the making. But New Britain's defense adjusted in the second quarter and finally got its running back Jayden Allen going. Allen scored to pull the Canes within 14-7 late in the second quarter with this short run. Maloney tried to respond, but Martell got injured making a play and didn't return. It looks like it was his shoulder, and the Spartans missed a field goal going into the half, 14-7. Maloney later turned the ball over on downs on its first drive of the third quarter, and New Britain's Allen tied the game with a 33-yard touchdown run. Though Maloney was held out of the end zone again, it did get a 26-yard field goal by Matty Husks to go up 17-14 with 9 minutes left. But New Britain's defense had set the tone, and with about 5 minutes left, the offense got back in gear. Quarterback Donovan Campbell threw a couple of nice passes to Julian Jimenez and Eli Rodriguez, and Allen with a nice bruising run, carrying a pile of defenders down to the goal line, setting up Allen's third touchdown on a 4-yard run. The extra point, though, was blocked, and it's 20-17 with just 3 minutes remaining. Maloney tried to respond and maybe get into field goal range to try to tie this game up, but a holding call pushed them back, and a fourth down pass went incomplete. New Britain 6-0 and turning to the GameTimeCT cameras to tell us all about it. And then when they went out to the handshake line, dap it up with Maloney, it got into a mess. Lots of pushing, lots of shoving, lots of yelling, back and forth, coaches and players alike, and it didn't seem like there was any adults really trying to get this thing broken up. Everyone seemed to be just really at each other's throat. Thankfully, Pete, nobody threw a punch. It didn't get any worse than that. Afterwards, we learned from Kevin Frederick, the Maloney coach, that a lot of it stemmed from, at least from his side of things, one of the New Britain players apparently put a picture of one of his players' sister on the back of their name, their plate, and put it out on social media, which is just, frankly, it's kind of disgraceful. If you really want my honest opinion about it, they didn't like how New Britons responded. New Britain afterward didn't like the way Maloney responded, and afterward Isaiah Bodie said, look, it was a heated exchange. This is a heated game. I don't really know where to quite go with this, Pete. I don't know the whole story. We tried to kind of get their opinions on it, but afterward, this was just kind of like a total mess. And I'm glad it didn't end up in worse. Again, everyone sort of behaved themselves. They didn't go over the edge, but let's make sure. Maybe no handshakes next time. Maybe you do the wave thing like they do in the ECC. But really kind of left a bad taste in your mouth. And otherwise, it was a great game by New Britain. I don't know what your take on this was, but really kind of really tough way to end that game.
It ruins what was a great game. I mean, that's really what it does, right? It ruins this amazing game that was held. Great win for New Britain. They're 6-0. They're put the state on watch for the first time since 2018. And this was supposed to be a celebrated moment, and this is all anyone can talk about. Now, let's not kid ourselves and don't think that this doesn't happen every week with a lot of other matchups. We've seen it over the years. Law and Sheehan, years ago, right?
Yeah.
There have been things that we've seen. We've been sent videos. We've been sent photos over the years of teams posting stuff on social media that other schools see. That doesn't make it right. I'm just saying is that we have seen it. We've seen it before. This is kind of the first time it's really become part of the story where everyone's talking about it. But it is a shame that this has kind of taken over what was supposed to be a great game. And, I have a hard time not looking in the mirror, doing what we do, sitting on this show, highlighting these kids, going on the pick'ems, picking 10 games each week and highlighting why this team is really good and why I think they're going to win. But also these other kids, highlighting the kids in the shoutouts. Is it, we're doing this show. We're treating them like, we have 3 weekly football shows, right? Are we not to blame, but are we inciting some of this with all this coverage, right? They're on the front page of newspapers across the state. They're on the front page of websites on social accounts that have a lot of followers. And, maybe we not take a step back, but, look, this stuff is, it just ruins everything. It just puts a bad taste in your mouth. This is not what it's supposed to be about. And you just sit there and you shake your head and you go, what are they thinking? And again, I'm not pointing fingers at anyone specifically because we've seen it in a lot of different You know, a lot of different games, a lot of different matchups. It's social media as a whole. And it's getting really exhausting. It's getting really tiring. It's getting not fun anymore because you can't go to a game without feeling like there's going to be a brawl at the end of it anymore. I mean, that's really what it comes down to. But I want to know where the adults in the room are.
Yeah. I think that's kind of like where we are. I don't know how much I want to blame us. Are they the spotlight put on adolescents? Sure, absolutely, and that's been a thing. But I don't think we sit there and really try to incite this. We go to great pains to kind of tell everybody like this is it's all good natured. It's nothing. We're not. This isn't like hardcore serious stuff. It's serious, but it's also not serious at the end of the day. Yeah. I mean, you could probably point the finger at us if you want to. I take exception to that, but I do think at some point, like the adults need to, take over here and make sure that these guys. I mean, running out in the field at the same time. Who was in charge of that? What was going on with that? Why did we even start with that? All the joint back and forth. I mean, and the social media stuff that needs to be curtailed. That has to be zero tolerance. If that really happened, you can't have that kind of stuff there. And I think for the most part, kids do behave themselves, but they're also kids. So I think a lot more of the adults and ADs, maybe even principals, people need to start sitting because of this stuff. And I don't know if that was the case here. I really don't. But like, if you do this stuff, there needs to be some zero, like the ref said, zero tolerance for this kind of thing. It's, we try to have fun out there, but at the end of the day, the reason why we have a handshake line is because we want to say, listen, after everything is over, we all respect you, you respect us, and that should be the end of it. And that is why we try to preach this sportsmanship stuff. Again, I think these are outliers. I think just sometimes our emotions get the best of us, and sometimes we don't, do the right thing here. And, again, I don't want to point fingers. I don't know who really was to blame, but it was a tough watch.
But it doesn't, look, the pointing of the fingers thing, we're never going to know who's to blame and this, that, and the other thing. But what it does is it ruins it for everyone.
Yeah.
That's it. Because in a couple of weeks, when we look back and New Britain maybe is 9-1 or 10-0 heading into the playoffs, and we're going to go through their schedule and we're going to be like, oh, remember when they beat Maloney? Oh, yes, that was the game when X, Y, and Z happened. So it just ruins everything. For everyone. And, that's just kind of the way that it is. And it puts a bad taste in everyone's mouth. And that's just the way it is going forward.
And one thing I will say to New Britain, I know, listen, guys, I know you're 6-0. I know you guys are getting disrespected or, again, it's not disrespect. It's just you guys got to prove yourselves. And this was a big moment. We were at the game. You guys got to prove yourselves. You're all hooting and hollering. I'm taking it in good faith, good naturedly, but we're getting just bombarded with these people who are just killing us. And New Britain's got to be in the top 10. Number one, the top 10 poll is a poll. It's voted on by 25, 26 people. We don't pick New Britain. I put them at the bottom of my poll, sure, but there are other people who are doing that. It's not us. It's the voters around the state. It's media people around the state. That's number one. But guys, just on the field is where it's got to be. You want to show us up. You want to tell us game time. You got us wrong again. That's fine. I'm all for it. But it's not personal. It's not personal. It is just guys got to prove yourself. And this was a big step toward that. 6-0 is great. Great start for them. Jayden Allen ran for 156 yards on 27 carries. And Eli Rodriguez afterward, it was all about it's about what we're gonna do next, who we gotta take on next, and here he is.
It's fun. It's enjoying. I have the fans come out to support us. We know it's gonna be a tough game, and we knew it was gonna be fought to the end. And I'm happy to be with my boys to fight to the end. It feels good, people downing us. We haven't beat them in my whole high school career. I've been playing since I was a freshman. They beat us every time. Last year I got hurt against them, so to be able to play through the whole game and to catch a dub feels great.
Before going out on the field for the last drive, the coach was like, we need this. I told my coach, I got you. Just give me the ball and I'm going in the end zone. And that's basically it. And I said to everybody on my team, game not done till I say so.
What does it say about you guys?
Well, we gotta keep pushing. This game's over with. We got Simsbury next, so we gotta worry about that one now.
So that was Eli Rodriguez and Jayden Allen. They're serious about being a contender in Class LL, and that is where they are, number one in Class LL. We'll get to all the playoff stuff in a bit. But, again, let's go to the top 10 poll. I'm going to have to say right off the bat, New Britain did not make it in this week. So, sorry, guys. You're just going to have to keep going and proving everyone wrong. That's just the way it goes. Ask any of these teams, coaches, or any of their players in the top 10. They will tell you it is not easy. You got to establish yourself and you get the benefit of the doubt when you start wins. But let's go to the top 10 poll, Pete. It was a kind of nothing. Everything's basically the same. Let's just run it down. Who did what? St. Joseph is number 10 after a 24-0 victory over Ridgefield. Backup quarterback Martin Braz came on after the injury to sophomore H.C. Jones last week and threw a couple of touchdown passes to lift the Hogs to their first win. They head to face Greenwich next. Cardinal Stadium Friday, 6 p.m. Be there. Number 9 is Brookfield, which thumped Pomprog 48-7 to stay unbeaten. Michael Walters, 133 yards and a pair of touchdowns. Niger Torres, 122 yards and a score. Chase Sylvia led the defense as usual. The Bobcats now face East Lyme at home in an alliance game before the final stretch against Barlow, Massac, then Bethel. Oh, goodness. Speaking of Bethel, number 8 is Massac, which unceremoniously dumped the Wildcats from the unbeaten ranks 42-0. Shane Walker had a great night. 2 TD passes he caught and picked off another pair of passes. The Panthers faced winless Pomprog in a Panthers versus Panthers battle Friday at home. Number 7, Staples, coming off its first loss, had its hands full a little bit with the Stanford defense, but the Records defense was also great. Pitched the shutout to make it a moot point, 27-0. Davis Crandall led the defense with 3 tackles for a loss and an interception. Aiden Stubbs kicked a couple of field goals. Nick Weil threw for 232 yards and a score. He also ran for one.
And then there was Josh Marcus, the All-State Staples lacrosse goalie, showing off his football chops by booming a pair of punts, 50, and then get this, 75 yards. It's second best in school history and 8th all-time.
Number 6 is Newtown, which makes short work of Stratford, 42-0.
The Nighthawks are the only 7-0 team in the state, and they at last, this week, get their bye week.
Before they go into the meat of their schedule, they get Bunnell, Bethel, then Massac to close out. So get ready, Newtown. Number 5 is Greenwich, which improved to 5-1 following their first loss of the season to Wilton. This week, it was another tough outing against a pretty game trouble team, which has a good defense. It hangs around. There were scores at halftime. In the second half, MJ D'Angelo got things going with a touchdown run, and then Hector Lopez ran for a pair of scores to all put the game away. Greenwich, as we mentioned, faces number 10 St. Joseph Friday night at home. Number 4 is Buchanan, which turned in another great defensive effort. Man, has it been good this year. Holding upstart Wilton to just 103 total yards, forcing 5 turnovers, and also got a nice day from punter Bennett Petrocello, who pinned the Warriors back all night and the defense gave Joey Haggerty a really rough time. So much that they actually wished him well after the game. Hopefully he's okay, they said. So do we. Anyway, number 3 is Darien, which on Saturday, a dominant defensive performance against upstart Ludlowe. The Blue Wave defense stopped a pair of early Ludlow scoring drives inside the 30 and then blasted off in the second quarter. A guy who had a big game was Thomas Herget, who scored 3 rushing and 1 receiving touchdowns. Ben Curtis had a pick 6. The Wave now get Wilton Friday at Fujitani Field. Number 2 is Ham, which was in a real battle, a dogfight, as it were, with Cheshire on the road. The Tigers trailed 22-13 late in the third before, in true hand form, ripping off 22-192 points to win. Paul Calandrelli ran for a pair of touchdowns and threw for another to lead the Tigers. His 26-yard TD run pulled Ham within 22-20 after 3, and then Tyler Narachi scored back-to-back touchdowns in just over a minute, thanks to a well-timed onside kick that gave the Tigers the lead for good. Hand gets Hamden, which won his first game of the year, at the Surf Club next week. And finally, number 1 is Windsor, routed Enfield 58-0 in its second shutout in 3 games. That is your top 10 poll. I don't know what else you're going to say about that, Pete. Everything kind of holds true to form. No New Britain, but I don't know if we expected them to be there.
Yeah, I don't think we expected New Britain to be in there. They definitely did pick up more votes. I had them in my bottom 5 outside the top 10, but I am still voting for them. But West Haven's still not in. Bunnell's still not in. Massac's
Lots
still
of good
in.
teams.
Killingly's not in. Fairfield Prep's not in. Ansonia's 6-0. They're not in. So there's a lot of undefeated teams left. I think it's a product of the scheduling. and we're going to see. I mean, we're going to see. Look, at the end of the day, the only top 10 that matters is the one at the end of the year. Right. And there have been teams before that didn't get any love during the regular season, then they go and they win a state championship, and then that's how you shut people up. Yeah. That's how you get what you think that you deserve. I will say though, I still find it very weird that Fairfield Prep and West Haven are not in this top 10. I vote them every week in my top 10. That's my Fairfield County bias that I vote for West Haven every week in the poll. But I think it's ridiculous that neither of those teams are in. I think, West Haven's losses to Greenwich and Prep's losses to Hand. And Prep took care of Bishop Hendricken that, Greenwich had to beat in the last minute. I think both Prep and Greenwich are two of the better teams in the state. So I just have a really, 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 I don't know, it just bothers me that they're not in here. I vote them. I know the SWC is really mad at me about how I vote after what I said last week. I will say Hand. I'm waiting. I'm going to make a comment about Hand. Oh, look, they had another slow start. Great way to finish. I'm waiting for the guy in the comment section to give me like 5 reasons why they had a slow start. Maybe the bus was late. I have no idea. But, Hand is still good. And I don't want anyone to every comment, they think that I'm like knocking Hand. I'm like, no, look, you guys are the number 2 team in the state. I vote them. I think I vote them 3. Like, Cheshire's a very good team, and they played a very good game, and they pulled it out when it mattered the most. It's just like anything I say about Hand is going to be, in the comments. So that comment alone just got us like 5 comments on our YouTube page. So.
Hey, listen, I'm a believer. I have Hand. Actually, I have Hand number. Geez, now I gotta remember. I think I have Darien above Hand because they took Windsor to the wire, whereas Hand, I'm like you said, a little iffy, but I saw them 3. I have Fairfield Prep.
Yeah, so do I.
I have Fairfield Prep at 4. I saw Fairfield Prep, by the way, at Ludlowe. I must say, and there's a picture, video of them right now. They are shouting us out, game time, game time. That's my new name now, game time. You're Pete. Where's Pete? Where's Pete? I don't know.
NVL Pete.
NVL Pete. Time. All right, game time. Bye. Well, say hi to Pete for us. Thanks a lot, Fairfield Prep.
NVL Pete. NVL Pete.
I had Fairfield Prep 10 years ago, cheering at Alumni Hall, cheering my name, SPB, SPB. And they're all like, now these guys, I'm just game time for them. You're Pete. So they love you.
Pete, baby.
You've been to their games this year, so I guess I can't complain too much. So I guess that's why. I don't know. Anyway, but yeah, saw Fairfield Prep there at Ludlowe. That was a nice little afternoon game on my mother's birthday, by the way. So just really quick aside. So she's a Ludlowe graduate, was a cheerleader at Ludlowe, and I might throw a photo up here, maybe her days. Maybe she'll kill me on this. But afterwards, I went over to celebrate her birthday at her house, and she pulled out the yearbook, the Ludlowe yearbook, class of 65. Then she regaled me with this story about how she, a Roger Ludlowe cheerleader, dated the quarterback of Andrew Ward. And she pulled out the yearbook and showed us that in her yearbook, Pete, it said, traitor to Ward. On the thing. I'm like, how could they put that in there? She's like, I don't know. It's just the Ludlow people didn't like the fact that I, was dating the Ward quarterback. I'm like, why'd you do that? She goes, well, the Ludlow guys didn't look very good. Happy birthday, Mom. I love you to death. That was great. Anyway. All right. Anyway, with all that said, that's basically what happened this week. And again, no change in the top 10. The only thing really you need to kind of look at now is kind of like what happened last week to kind of change change the playoff standings, which is all anyone's going to talk about in the next few weeks. And it's going to amp up more and more and more as we go along. So let's just get right into it. Let's take a look at the CIAC state playoff standings. We're going to start at Class S because that was where this past week's games, a lot of the big results really took force. Starting over at Beacon Falls, Pete, where Woodland kind of lying under the weeds a little bit. They hadn't been much of a factor. They lost to Holy Cross, if you recall, early on in the season. Now going into a huge stretch of games versus Naugatuck to start. Chris Anderson, the former Woodland coach, he had 2 stints there, facing his old team at a newly refurbished field. Big moment here for the Hawks. Naugatuck trying to keep pace with Ansonia. What happened there?
Dominant performance by Woodland. They had the 2004 team. They honored that state championship team before the game. Obviously, Chris Anderson, who founded the Woodland football program, was the coach of that team. I know it was a very emotional night with the Pinot Trophy on the line as well. Woodland hadn't won it in a very long time. but everything went Woodland's way. Every turnover, every fumble, every bounce went Woodland's way, and they took advantage of it. Will Brooks, 3 rushing touchdowns on the night. He recovered a fumble. He had an interception. It was just a wild, dominant game. And you thought, hey, Naugatuck's going to come back. Woodland went up 7-0. Brooks scores 6-0. You're like, all right, Naugatuck's probably going to get back. No, Woodland gets the ball, touchdown. Another touchdown. All of a sudden, you look, and it's 27-0 at halftime, and you're like, where is Naugatuck? Naugatuck scores to open the half. Brandon Anjo with a 10-yard run. Bernetti throws another touchdown pass. Brooks 2 more. And all of a sudden, you look at it, and it's like, oh, my God, we got running clock in this game. I mean, it was stunning. It was absolutely stunning. But it was loud. The crowd was into it. Obviously, it was packed. And it was just a butt kick. And it really kind of solidified Woodland's spot here of, maybe they might be. I know that they lost to Holy Cross, but, Woodland might be the second best team in the NVL. I mean, they just straight up dominated Naugatuck, who rarely loses to an NVL opponent that's not named Ansonia. And, nothing went Naugatuck's way. Everything went the other way. It was awesome. Joe Lato was very emotional at the end of the game. And if you know Joe, Joe's great after most games, but I had never seen him like this. Here's his interview after. He was just so happy for everyone.
There was something special going on in the air. We were getting turnovers and flying to the ball. Our kids just played so hard, and it's just nice to finally, say, hey, you did it, And they were feeling it because, we haven't had a big win since probably Holy Cross a couple years ago, and it's just really good. I'm just happy for them. I'm happy for the community. I'm happy for the Pinot family. Oh my gosh, it's just nice to finally, give them the trophy.
So you hear from Joe. You just thank you. He's happy for his players. He's happy for his coaching staff. He's happy for the fans. He's happy for the Pinot family. He was just so happy after that game that I'd never kind of seen Joe like that. After a game, and I think it really meant a lot. I mean, it's the first year, this new beautiful turf field that they got at Woodland. They have a staircase now.
Oh, wow.
So instead
That's
of,
big.
You don't have to walk up the mud, the mud thing. That was great for my back. NVL Pete loved it. But it was a really cool atmosphere, and the game was not what we thought it would be, but hats off to Woodland. It was a day where they honored, 20 years of their first state title.
Oh, yeah.
Chris Anderson, obviously, coach that team. Like I said, he was there. I think Naugatuck goes back to the drawing board and tries to figure it out. Look, they have 6-0 Torrington coming up. Different types of schedules in the NVL, but Torrington's not going to go away. They're not going to lay down. Let's not forget, Torrington did beat Naugatuck a couple of years ago in a game that we were all like, oh, damn. So it'll be really interesting to see how Naugatuck responds. But, Chris Anderson, I think, is one of the best coaches in the state. So I think he'll have the Greyhounds ready to go this week.
Yeah, a little bit of a gut check time for the Naugatuck guys who we saw at the night before at the Ansonia game. They were actually talking with the Woodland guys, and I'm like, guys, what are you guys doing? This is a big game you guys got tomorrow. They're like, But listen, they're anxious to kind of prove themselves too, and getting beat up like that really kind of puts a little bit of a crink in those plans. Just quickly on 2004 team, and that was my first year at Connecticut Post, and I remember going up there and covering that team, and I wrote big stories about it, and it was that team was great. Jared Katchmar, the Kingsleys. Remember, you had Cody. Well, Cody was a freshman, but Shane Kingsley, the Ansonia assistant now, was on that. But who else? Alex Dorsch. Just a great team. And it was good to see some of the photos and some of the stuff from that game. Was one of the teams that one of my first teams I ever covered. It was pretty cool to see that. But again, speaking of Ansonia, speaking of Shane, the Chargers, Pete, the night before over at Municipal Stadium playing a game against Holy Cross, a game that we were really anxious to see. Ansonia, what do they have? We saw them early in the season. They beat up on Seymour. They beat up on Gilbert Northwest. Now they get into the meat of their schedule. Let's see what the Chargers got. And, they looked like the team to beat in Class S, Pete, with a 48-13 victory over the Crusaders. Quintez Whittle, 21 carries, 193 yards, and 3 touchdowns. But you know what? Holy Cross really moved the ball well with Drew Kawet, and it seemed poised to answer every time Ansonia scored. But on its first try, he was picked off by Chase Antrim. and Whittle ran for an easy touchdown. Next drive, Caillouette drove cross down the field, got picked off by Matteo Sorrentino in the end zone just one play later, following a crushing block by Red Romanowski on an 80-yard touchdown run to put them up 14-0. And afterwards, I'm like, I wanted to make sure that was Red. I go, hey, was that your block? He goes, of course it was. He's unbelievable. And so Holy Cross goes down. They were able to score. Deshaun Graves from Caillouette to get within 14-6. But after a sweet Torrentino run, got wiped out because of a penalty. Brockett caused a double reverse pass, and Sorrentino found Whittle wide open for a 66-yard touchdown. It's going to be a long day to be a Crusader, said Romanowski as he jogged off the field just within earshot of me, So that put him up 27-13 it was 27-13 at the half. And in the second half, though, it was all Ansonia defense, led by Curtis Senatus, 3 sacks, and Holy Cross could only muster 2 first downs. They're in Class Double M now, and they're going to need a little bit of help. But the Ansonia with the big victory, 48-13, they're atop the Class S standings. And afterwards, Ansonia with his first real big test of the season, they were pretty pumped up about it.
Everyone's talking about Holy Cross. They're a good team, and you just knew we had to come on the field and dominate, show them what Ansonia's about.
We knew it was going to be a test. We're glad that every game's not easy. We're glad that we face opponents like that, and hopefully we wanted to be a little bit easier, but it is what it is.
I thought tonight was good. I have a lot of respect for Holy Cross. I thought they're a good football team. I thought our kids played hard, and it was a battle, and our kids, I thought we hit a little lull there in the second quarter, and I wanted to see how we were going to respond in the third quarter. I was very happy the way the kids responded. Mateo made big plays for us tonight every time we needed one, and Q was an absolute bulldog.
You heard from Quintez Whittle. You heard from Senatus there, and Brockett pulling out the bag of tricks because he felt like they needed a little spark there after getting their touchdown wiped out. And looking at the Class S standings as we look at this, Ansonia is just behind Capital Prep, both 6-0. Capital Prep had a nice 8-7 win over North Brantford, but there we are. Woodland now creeping up 5-1. East Catholic had a nice comeback win this week. I guess it was against Avon. Cromwell Portland had a huge win over Valley Regional Lime in a game that was going to decide who's going to be in the middle of this pack. And in that game, Matt Gish ran for a couple scores, including the game winner in the last minute. He also caught a TD pass that had a 2-point conversion and an interception in a 21-16 victory over Tommy Troy and Valley Regional Lime. Tyler Sapola also on a huge pick off in that game to preserve the victory. So Cromwell Portland moves up there to number 5. They get this week, Pete, Haddam Killingworth. They play that game at HK. If you want to, we'll talk more about that game coming up with Tyler Wilcox of HK on the Coach's Corner on Wednesday. So be sure to check that out. And then also Bloomfield making waves here, 4-2 now. We were kind of throwing dirt on their graves after getting beat up by St. Joseph. And then Stonington getting into the mix here after Northwest Catholic lost to Bloomfield. And that was the big game that kind of decided the last 2 points here. And then after that, you got Derby Waterbury Career Academy. We'll talk about that game in a little bit. But that's where we are in Class S right now. I don't know. Capital Prep's been pretty good. But Ansonia looks like a really complete team.
Yeah, they look better than they did against Watertown the last time I saw them. Quintez Whittle is really good, and there was a lot of similarities in the Watertown game where Ansonia's defense bent, but they held strong. They didn't allow points, and 2 plays later, they were back in the end zone. It's just such a gut punch for an opposing team. You drive all the way down the field, you turn the ball over, and they're able to just flip it, go right down the field, score. Big play. It's just a backbreaker. It's just such a backbreaker. They're good. It's back to Ansonia. It's just like Class S probably going to go through Jarvis.
Really interested to see what Bloomfield brings them. Now they're kind of back in it a little bit. A big win over Northwest Catholic. Again, it was a 34-21. I don't know much about that game, but again, like we said, that'll be interesting to see. And then obviously Capital Prep kind of throwing stuff in the mix. We'll see what happens with that Cromwell Portland game. Anyway, moving on to Class Double S. Killingly right now leading the charge ahead of Wyndham, just barely. Wyndham with a really big victory over Ledyard, 13-7 behind Aseo Garcia Rodriguez. I hope I said his first name right. But that was a big game to keep Wyndham pace with Killingly right there, 6-0. Waterford also 6-0. Sheehan 5-1. They got to play Fairfield Prep this week. We'll see how that shakes out for Razi's gang, but they've built up a really nice resume to kind of stay afloat there. I mean, regardless of how that game goes, they're going to be fine. They're going to be in good shape. Granby Canton, they got a big game against Ellington in a pivotal game this week. So that'll be interesting to see. Colin and Joel Barlow getting back into the mix here. Barlow's got Keelingly at home, I believe. In
Killingly. At Killingly.
Oh, it's at Killingly? I wish they would have it on these schedule maps. But anyway, all right, so at Killingly, Barlow goes all the way up there in a must-win game for them. Barlow wins that game, and they are going to be in great shape in Class SS because they get all those points Killingly has. If not, then they got to go to Brookfield, and they got to beat Newtown. Yikes. Barlow's going to need to win at least one of those games, maybe two. It's going to be tough. And then after that, Ledger's falling off. Bullard Havens do Fairfield. So that is Class SS. In Class M, Hand is leading the charge, 6-0. Brookfield leading number 2 right now. Rockville 6-0. St. Joseph 5-1. Law falling back a little bit after losing to Hamden, but they're 4-2 still right in the mix there. Berlin with a really big win over Manchester to put them back into the race here in M. North Haven has a huge game versus West Haven this week at Vanacore Field. Be there, pivotal game here in the Class M race there, number 7, and Watertown at number 8 right now. Woodland, Holy Cross coming up for them, and that's a big stretch in order to keep them in the mix here. East Haven, Ram, Lyman Hall, New London kind of waiting in the wings there. But right now, M still a good, solid base of teams right there, the 8. We'll see with St. Joe. Got to play Greenwich this week, but I think they'll be fine. Moving up to Class MM, Windsor, Newington, Pete, your boys, Donuts. Didn't have the donut this week, but had a big win in a battle of unbeatens versus Bristol Central, 14-7. Really nice job by them.
Yeah, it was great. Fighting Aquavitas, man. I mean, donut defense, holding strong. They held them to 7. I think they've only allowed something like 17 points this year. Josiah Sims, 17 points, nailed it. Josiah Sims is really fun to watch, and I recommend anyone who goes to see Newington go and watch that kid play. You know, John Aquavita knows a thing or two about next level talent. Obviously coaching Campbell at Hyde, and then Travis Jones at Wilbur Cross. He loves this kid. He thinks this kid, he said he should be a fully scholarship offered player by the end of this season. And, when John says something like that, you definitely pay attention.
Absolutely. Looking kind of down a bit here. Newington, Massac, 5-1. They got Pomfret, West, and Brookfield left. Waiting for that Brookfield Massac game. Can't wait for that. Pete, your boys, Torrington. We'll get to it, I guess, right? We're going to get to that one? Or?
Yep. Yeah, we'll get to Torrington.
All right, we'll get to Torrington, 6-0. Another team that's dying for GameTimeCT recognition. And we kind of gave them the business last week, and they've responded in kind by knocking off WCA. We'll get to that game, like I said. Benell, 5-1. They get Notre Dame Prep here before a really huge one. They should win Notre Dame Prep. We'll see, though. I mean, it's a dangerous game. Be careful. But Newtown after that. Benell, 5. Again, this is what this division's crushing. Because Benell's 5-1. They're 5th. Then you got Cheney Tech, 6-0. Bristol Central only lost that one game to Newington. They dropped 7. And then Hill House, another team we'll get to, making waves here. Lost their running back, but 5-1 after beating Amity. Not a bad job. Holy Cross has fallen off a little bit. Going to need to beat Watertown, and we're going to have to maybe run the table here. Beat Watertown is going to be huge in 2 weeks. But that's a big moment for them. Weathersfield, 5-1. Got to start winning some games here. I think, looking at this, they might have to run the table, Weathersfield, because there are a lot of good teams ahead of them that probably aren't going to lose anytime soon. Bethel's another one. Couldn't get the points from Massac. Going to need to beat all those teams. Bassick, Stratford, New Milford, and then Brookfield at the end. That might be a huge play-in game for them if they can't, if the things stay the way they are. So that's Class MM. L, Darien, New Canaan. I mean, who else? 5-1, 5-1. Naughty falls back. Newtown 7-0. Not a ton of points because their schedule, just the teams that they've beaten, just aren't that great. So if you're wondering why,
please, if you're the person who's DMing me why we haven't covered Newtown the last 3 weeks, just take a look at their schedule.
Yeah. schedule is everything. Number 5, we talked about Ludlowe, 4-2. Again, they lost twice and have only fallen back to 5th here. Not bad. I mean, they're hanging in there. They got McMahon, Wilton, some dangerous teams left for Ludlowe, but still not out of the woods yet. Number 6, Notre Dame West Haven, which surprisingly got knocked off by our guy, Caden Hillier, Coach Brian White, and the Guilford Grizzlies. Don't call it a comeback for the Grizzlies, but big win by then after Notre Dame knocked off North Haven the prior time out. At number 7, Amity lost to Hill House, falls back a little bit, still in a good spot. East Haven, Guilford, that's going to be critical now for Amity because Hillier is so good. Hartford Public and Bassick to follow at the end. So that Guilford game, huge for Amity. ATI with a big win last week over Wilcox Taylor to put them in position here at 8. After that, it's number 9, your boy Jason Bruin and Platt, 3-3. They got Windsor in a couple weeks. They're going to have to win that Enfield game to set it up. But then Connor's no slouch, and then Maloney at the end. They're going to have to win some games there. And then after that, it goes Fitch, Maloney. Now, the Maloney at number 11 is very interesting, Pete. You know, let's hope Jesus Martell is okay. And if he is, they will play Manchester this week. Manchester's 4-2 is going to give them a ton of points. Then you also have Hall and Southington also going to give them some points. And Platt at the end there. Maloney not out of it yet. So if you're, you know, if they're going to have to win out. That is absolutely for sure. But, you know, with ATI, Amity there, I mean, there's going to be an opening for Maloney. And Hall is down there too, and Simsbury. I don't know about them, but Maloney, that's the one to watch. If they can get in and Martell is good to go, I think they'll be in pretty decent shape, Pete.
Yeah, I mean, I love Platt's here. Platt is 3-3. Another come from behind win. They were trailing 20-7 going into the fourth quarter.
Yeah, boys.
Our guy, Austin Sanders, my guy, Austin Sanders, 2 touchdowns. And I texted Coach Bruin after. I'm like, you guys just love the drama. And what happened was Platt, the opponent got down the field inside the 5 on a missed coverage, and it's like they're going to lose, and then they force the fumble, they jump on it, the hold, they win. The dramatic Panthers are 3-3 with 3 wild come-from-behind victories. I don't know if Jason Bruin's going to make it through the season if they keep winning games like this.
I was actually at one of those. You were at one of those. I was at the Berlin game, that's still the all-timer for me. I mean, but that South Windsor game that you were at, they were amazing. Standish, man, he's only a sophomore. This kid's got, he's got some cojones to good player, man.
Yeah, he doesn't shy away.
Yeah,
he's not afraid of the spotlight. He's a good kid.
If you got a problem, he'll solve it. Anyways, that's good for Jason and his guys. And then finally, Class Double L, New Britain sitting there. They got Simsbury, Glastonbury, Manchester, Hartford Public left. And after Manchester got knocked around a little bit by Berlin, I don't know if New Britain's losing the rest of the way. So they might be the number 1 seed in Double L. Guys, just keep going the course, and you'll get your love. Greenwich 5-1, Prep, like you said, lying beneath the weeds. They got Sheehan this week, Hamden, North Haven, and West Haven. So Prep still lots of big games left. So we'll see where they end up. Staples, took their time against Stanford, but the defense has been really good for them. Or good against Buchanan, the offense just couldn't get in gear. And then you got Danbury, St. Joe, Trumbull, and Greenwich for Staples. So another one. They're not out of the woods yet. West Haven's got to play North Haven, Cheshire, Fairfield Prep the rest of the way. They got Brantford in there too. Glastonbury coming off their loss. They got East Hartford, New Britain. There's a lot of the Double L it might be set. I mean, Manchester. Listen, Manchester, Maloney, Southington, New Britain, East Hartford. By no means is any of those given now. Trumbull hanging in there with 3-3 record, but that just means they got Stanford, West Hill, then Staples and St. Joe left. They're probably going to have to win one of those last 2, assuming they're going to win those 2. But then West Hill 3-3, they think they belong in this. Kennedy's in there, McMahon's in there. They got Ludlowe. McMahon beats Ludlowe, man. Look out, here come the Senators. So.
Yeah, I mean they've been lying in the weeds. They're just such a good program. We're going to talk about them a little bit more, but if they can beat Ludlowe, New Canaan's going to be a tough one. Wilton's tough. We know that Wilton is tough. They beat Greenwich, but also Wilton is coming off a really difficult 3-game swing, so you don't really know what Wilton team you're going to see that day. And then obviously Norwalk, they have gotten the better of them the last couple of years. So if McMahon pulls off a Ludlowe, beats Ludlowe 6-4, Mike, do you think that gets them over a 5-5 Trumbull team?
Well, let's put it this way: McMahon's only lost to date. They only have 2 wins. The teams that they've beaten only have 2 wins. They're 2-16. That's Harding, Central, and Ward. They're not going to get a lot of points from those teams. They're going to need to beat Ludlowe, and they're going to probably need to beat Wilton. And then Norwalk. I mean, New Canaan.
But I'm saying, if they go 6-4, will that be enough to jump a Trumbull team maybe who might go 5-5?
Let's see. Stanford, West Hill. That's 5 right there. Let's say they lose to Staples and St. Joseph. Let's say it's going to be close.
Yeah,
going to be close if they can get 6-4, possibly, because they will have a good team that they had beaten, and whereas Trumbull, not so much. So
except that they would have beaten McMahon.
Yeah, that is so. There you are, Pete. It's convoluted. We'll get more into the intricacies of the playoff race, but if you want to know how that works, go to last week's episode. I tell you, we'll get more into that later. But it's don't ask us to really explain it. Ask your coach, maybe they can do it. But last week's episode, I get a little explainer. Anyway, so that is it, Pete. Let's get to shout-outs. All right, Pete, here we go. I'm going to start first with Nick Andrews of Southington. He ran 27 times for 157 yards and 3 touchdowns, including the last-minute game winner, and he also caught a touchdown pass, and he ran a kickoff back for a score, as the Blue Knights needed every bit of what he produced to win a 42-38 shutout win at East Hartford. Listen, it hasn't been something that's 2-4. I don't know. Maybe let's take a quick look at them. Are they in any position to maybe make a move in Class L? They beat Manchester, Maloney, and Chestershire, and they're not out of the woods yet either. So Southington still, lying in the weeds there. That was a big win for them. So if they do get into the playoffs, you can thank this moment right now. East Hartford beating East Hartford behind Nick Andrews' great performance. Pete.
All right, I'm just talking about McMahon. We're going to talk about him again. I'm going to go with my guy, Jermel Bynum. All right, we need to start talking about him more. He was the kid who had a really good game against Darien 2 years ago. You remember that when they almost won by the foot, the Darien foot? Anyway, he had a great game in that game. He's a really good player, someone we need to talk to more. This week, he caught 3 passes for 119 yards, 2 touchdowns, had a sack, and then had a pick 6 where the quarterback dropped back, threw it, and he just jumped up on the line. He's like, hey, just give me that. Takes it to the house. Brian McMahon beat Ward 48-13. Bynum, write his name down. We need to keep an eye on him. He is a player. Sean, who you got?
Yeah, you look good. That was a great clip that they put out there. Thank you, McMahon, for bringing that to our attention. Wow, that was a great clip. Great stuff. I'm going to go back to Wyndham. I already mentioned his name before. Hopefully I get it right. Esel Garcia Rodriguez, 27 times for 83 yards. But he caught a 20-yard touchdown pass, and he kicked an extra point and was a big factor on defense. As the Wyndham Whippets, my Whippets, defeated Ledger 13-6 to keep them on pace with Killingly in the Class SS playoff berth. They're rolling right along, the Whippets. One of my darling teams. I had them pegged maybe for the final, I think. I don't remember that far back, but I think I put them in the final in our preseason. But big win for them. Pete.
I'm going to go to my guys over at Torrington, Kel Camera. Now, quickly, if you know anything about me, you know this show, you know I got a soft spot in my heart for Torrington. Started my career there. Always tried to go see the Raiders once a year and Coach Gaetan Rodriguez. And what a show they put on for me. But it was Kel Camera. He had the pick 6 late in the third quarter to give Torrington its first lead of the game, 13-12. Now, Waterbury Career would take the lead back, but Camera caught a huge pass, 40-plus yards on the final drive, gets Torrington in the red zone, which set up Dante Latina's game-winning touchdown with 5.5 seconds left. Torrington remains undefeated at 6-0, 27-20 win over WCA. And I met the guy, he's friends of the program now, who does all their memes and stuff on Twitter where they called me out for saying it was an option offense and not or whatever. So I got to meet him. He's awesome. Love that Torrington's back in the mix. Kel, great game. A lot of those guys. Mikey had a great game. It was just great to see the Raiders. They're 6-0. Sean, who do you got?
Pete, I'm going to go back to Hill House for the 800th time, it feels like.
beating my alma mater last week, Amity, with a big day. So first they lose Amir Danley, who was just torching junior, and then injured his shoulder, probably not coming back. I mean, I saw a maybe not coming back, but likely he's not coming back. And they went to Antoine Williams. He was a key cog on the defensive side of the ball. He was forced into workhorse duty with the injury, and he ran for 165 yards and 3 touchdowns as the Academics defeated Amity 33-19 at Bowen Field. Hey, last week I said maybe Hill House is not bad at all. We kind of thought last year maybe we carry over this year. Not by any stretch. The Academics are back on the mend under Walter Gibbs as coach, and that was a big part. Antoine Williams for them, and they have a shot now maybe to get into a playoff berth. It would be the first time since they won the state title in 2016. Pete, you're next.
I would love to see Hill House back in the playoffs, that's for sure. Staying with my NVL, because I'm NVL Pete. Will Rogers from Crosby. I took the trip to Waterbury early on Thursday to see the rival game between Crosby and Wilby, and Will Rogers had himself an afternoon. 3 o'clock starts. I love them. He rushed for 2 touchdowns and led the offense that scored 38 points in a 38-6 win over city rival Wilby. He set the tone all day. Great game, great player, great win for Crosby. Those city rivalry games are always fun. Sean, who do you got?
Yeah, well, speaking of city rivalry games, Pete, I'm going to go back to my old haunting ground, my stomping ground of Bridgeport. Harding versus Bassick. I picked Bassick to win because they beat Bridgeport Central. Well, Harding decided to show up and beat the Lions, and it was mostly because of this guy, Connell McKinney. He ran for touchdowns of 3, 50, and 38 yards as the Presidents got into the win column with a 36-6 victory. Their first of the season, that's big for them. So congratulations, Presidents. We congratulated Bassick, so it stands to reason we're going to congratulate the Presidents as well. Pete.
Well, now if Bridgeport Central beats Bassick, there's a tie for the city championship.
Yeah, that's true. But so Harding can win it outright, though, on Thanksgiving. So that'll be big for the Presidents.
All right, my last one is Charles Hebron III from Hamden. He rushed for 180 yards and 2 scores, including the game-winning touchdown from 7 yards out in Hamden's 21-14 win over Law. It's Hamden's first win of the season. And while it's important what happened on the field, after the game, the Hamden Athletics Department shared their graphic with their 21-14 win, and the hashtag was Win for Eli. And it was in remembrance of Elijah Gonzalez, who was shot and killed walking home from school when he was a freshman in 2022. Yeah. The man who shot him was convicted of murder and got a 35-year prison sentence in August. But Eli would have been a senior this season. He was a member of the football team. So according to Hamden Athletic Director and head coach Tom Dyer, they honored him. His family walked out in his memory for senior day on Friday. And, the Green Dragons came out with a win. So much love to Hamden. And that's just, it's a tragic. It was a tragedy then. Bringing it up now, it hurts and it's sad, but it was nice that, Hamden was able to honor him on senior day. And obviously, they got a win out of it. So really the whole shout out goes to the entire Hamden football program.
Great job. I remember that. I mean, I live in Whitneyville. It was not too far away. It was right on the bike path. It's just senseless that this young man's life was taken from him. And I remember we wrote the stories about it. I still don't even know why it happened. I don't know. It's just senseless. And good job by Hamden to at least honor his memory with a gesture like that. So good job by Tommy and the guys there and Charles for a great game, because Law, which is no slouch. Hamden's been there, but maybe not gonna be their year. They needed that one badly. That was a great time to get it. So Pete, that is the Meat Grinder podcast for this week. We got tons of big games coming up. We try to mention as many as possible. North Haven, West Haven being one of them. St. Joe, Greenwich. Just a lot of lots to do between now. Don't forget, it's Halloween on Thursday. So wear if you're at a game, wear some of your best costumes. And then next Tuesday, as we were putting this out, don't forget to vote. Vote like your future depends on it, because it does. So that's an important thing to do. Those are your PSAs from Game Time CTHQ. With all that said, you got anything left for us, Pete? You got anything else? No, we're good.
No, let's just enjoy the season, guys. It's going to be fun and it's going to end quickly. So let's just enjoy it. Let's have some fun. watch the picks and the coaches interview.
Yeah, absolutely. So for people, I'm Sean Patrick Bowley. This has been the Game Time CT Meat Grinder on Game Time CT.
Love you all.